Katie Morrison pressed her small face against the cold glass of the observation window. Stars moved past like tiny white dots against the black sky. She was 8 years old and had never seen space before this trip. Her parents said they were going to New Terra, a planet where her dad would work as a ship captain and her mom would run a medical center. The big transport ship called Horizon's Edge carried 300 people. Most were families like hers looking for new homes on distant worlds. Katie liked watching the stars, but she missed her old house and her cat Whiskers, who stayed with Grandma back on Earth. Her parents were in a meeting with the ship's officers. Katie heard them talking about pirates before they left her in the observation deck. The grown-ups looked worried, but they told her everything would be fine. She played with her stuffed rabbit and tried not to think about the scary stories she heard about space raiders. Captain Vextar stood on the bridge of his hunting ship, the Bone Ripper. His scaled green skin had many scars from years of fighting. Metal parts replaced his left eye and right arm. The Kethvar captain had hunted across the galaxy for 20 years, but this job was different. His client wanted one specific thing: a human child. The message had come through secret channels. Someone offered 10 million credits for a live human child, age 5 to 10 years old. The client said the child must be unharmed and healthy. Vextar did not ask questions when the pay was this good. His crew of 12 Kethvar warriors were hungry for credits and blood. "Target ship ahead, Captain," said his first officer, Grexina. "Transport vessel, 300 humans aboard. Weak weapons, old shields." Vextar smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Perfect. Begin the hunt." Katie felt the ship shake. The lights flickered, and alarm bells started ringing. She grabbed her rabbit and looked out the window. A dark ship moved closer, shaped like a giant knife. Red lights flashed along its sides. People started screaming in the hallways. Katie ran to find her parents, but the corridor was full of panicking passengers. Adults pushed past her carrying bags and children. She fell down and someone stepped on her hand. "Mommy! Daddy!" she cried, but no one heard her over the noise. The Horizon's Edge shook again. This time, Katie heard a terrible sound like metal being torn apart. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. The ship's computer voice said, "Hull breach detected. All passengers report to emergency stations." Katie did not know where the emergency stations were. She was lost in corridors that all looked the same. Behind her, she heard strange voices speaking in a language she did not understand. The voices sounded angry and dangerous. The Kethvar warriors moved through the ship with energy weapons that shot blue bolts. They stunned the adult humans but did not kill them. Their orders were clear: find the children and bring them alive. Adults were not important for this mission. Grexna led a team through the passenger sections. The humans tried to fight with emergency tools and furniture, but they were no match for trained warriors. The Kethvar had better weapons, stronger bodies, and years of combat experience. Sector 7 cleared. Grexna reported through his comm device. "Found many adult humans, no children yet. Keep looking," Vextar replied. "The client specifically wants young ones. Search every room, every hiding place." Katie found a small space behind some pipes in the ship's maintenance area. She crawled inside and held her rabbit tight. Through the metal walls, she heard people screaming and the sound of energy weapons firing. Sometimes the screaming stopped, and that was even more scary. Her parents had taught her to hide if there was ever danger. They said bad people sometimes tried to hurt others in space, and she should stay hidden until help came. But Katie did not think help was coming. The ship felt different now, like it was dying. She heard heavy footsteps in the corridor outside, her hiding place. The footsteps stopped, and she held her breath. Someone spoke in that strange language again, very close to where she was hiding. A metal panel was torn away. Light flooded into Katie's hiding spot. She looked up and saw something from her worst nightmares. A tall creature with green scales and glowing red eyes stared down at her. It had sharp claws and carried a weapon that hummed with energy. "Found one," the creature said in broken English. "Human child, correct age." Katie tried to scream, but no sound came out. The creature reached down with its claws and grabbed her arm. It pulled her out of the hiding place easily. She was so small compared to the alien warrior. "Mommy, Daddy, help me," she finally managed to cry. The Kethvar warrior carried her through the ship. Katie saw other aliens dragging unconscious humans into groups. Some people were awake but too scared to move. She saw blood on the walls and broken glass, everywhere. They brought her to an area where other Kethvar stood guard. Captain Vexitar looked at her with his metal eye. He seemed pleased. "Perfect specimen," he said. "Young, healthy, terrified. The client will be happy." "What about parents?" asked Grexna. "Find them." The client said the child's fear is important. Seeing parents die will make the fear stronger. Katie did not understand all the words, but she knew they were planning something terrible. She looked around for her parents, but did not see them anywhere. Two Kethvar warriors dragged a man and woman into the area. Katie recognized them immediately. "Mommy! Daddy!" she screamed and tried to run to them. The aliens held her back. Her parents were hurt but alive. Her father's face was covered in blood, and her mother's arm hung at a wrong angle. "Katie! Let her go," her father shouted. He tried to break free, but the Kethvar were too strong. "Please, she's just a child," her mother begged. "Take me instead." Captain Vextar laughed. "Humans and their emotional attachments. This makes our job easier." He gave orders in his language. The warriors started dragging Katie toward an airlock where a smaller ship waited. Her parents fought and screamed, but they could not help her. As the aliens pulled her away, Katie felt something strange happening inside her body. It was like electricity running through her blood. Her skin started to feel hot, and her heart beat very fast. She thought it was just fear, but something much more dangerous was beginning to wake up inside her. The Kethvar ship felt cold and wrong. Katie sat in a small cell with metal walls and no windows. The floor was hard, and the only light came from a red strip near the ceiling. She hugged her stuffed rabbit and cried until no more tears would come. The aliens had put a metal collar around her neck. It felt heavy and made a soft beeping sound every few seconds. When she tried to touch it, it gave her a small shock that made her fingers tingle. Hours passed. Katie heard strange sounds through the walls, machines humming, footsteps of the Kethvar crew, and sometimes voices speaking in their harsh language. She did not know what happened to her parents or the other people from her ship. Her grandfather had told her stories about the old wars when humans first met aliens in space. He said there were terrible battles and many people died. Grandpa Ben had been a soldier then, one of the first humans to fight alien invaders. He never talked much about what he did in the war, but he always said humans were stronger than they looked. Katie did not feel strong. She felt small and scared and alone. Captain Vexitar stood in his communication room, speaking to his mysterious client through a screen that showed only darkness and a distorted voice. "The specimen is secured," Vexitar reported. "Human child, female, age approximately 8 standard years. Unharmed as requested." "Excellent," the voice replied. "Her fear levels?" "High. We eliminated her parents in front of her as suggested. The terror response should be optimal for your experiments." "Perfect. The human emotional system is fascinating. Fear triggers such interesting biological changes. How long until delivery?" 3 days to reach the coordinates you provided. Payment. Will transfer upon arrival? Of course, you have done well, Captain. This child will help us understand human weaknesses we can exploit. Vextar ended the transmission. He did not care what his client planned to do with the human child. Credits were credits, and this job would make his crew rich. In her cell, Katie felt strange. Her skin was getting warm, and she could hear her heartbeat in her ears. The beeping from her collar was getting faster. She thought maybe she was getting sick. She did not know that tiny machines called nanites were moving through her blood. Her grandfather had volunteered for a secret military program 50 years ago. Scientists had put special technology in his body that could be passed to his children and grandchildren. The program was called Guardian Protocol. Only 100 soldiers had volunteered because the technology was dangerous and untested. The nanites were designed to activate only when a human child was in extreme danger, with no hope of rescue. Katie's grandfather never knew if the technology had passed to his family. The program was classified, and all records were destroyed after the war ended. But the nanites had been waiting in Katie's DNA, sleeping until they were needed. The Kethvar medic, Sithka, entered Katie's cell with a medical scanner. She was smaller than the warriors, with blue-green scales and 4 arms. Her job was to keep valuable prisoners healthy during transport. "Do not move, human child," Sithka said in broken English. She ran the scanner over Katie's body. "Medical check required." Katie pressed herself against the wall. The alien's touch felt cold and rough. The scanner made clicking sounds as it read her body functions. Sithka looked at the results with confusion. Strange readings: heart rate very high, body temperature rising, unknown particles in bloodstream. She made notes on her device. "Probably. Fear response. Humans are emotional species. We'll monitor for changes." The medic left Katie alone again. She did not report the unusual readings to Captain Vextar because she thought they were normal stress reactions. This was a mistake that would cost the entire crew their lives. Katie tried to sleep, but her body would not let her rest. The warm feeling in her skin was getting stronger. She could see thin silver lines appearing on her arms, like veins, but glowing softly in the dim light. She touched one of the lines and felt a small electric shock, but it did not hurt. It felt like power flowing through her body. The lines were spreading, moving up her arms toward her shoulders and chest. Something was talking to her, but not with words she could hear. It was like thoughts appearing in her mind that were not her own thoughts. The voice was calm and strong, like her grandfather's voice when he told her bedtime stories about brave soldiers. Primary directive activated. Guardian Protocol 77 Alpha online. Threat assessment in progress. Protected individual, Katie Morrison, age 8 years, genetic marker confirmed. Katie did not understand the words, but they made her feel less afraid. Something inside her was waking up, something that had been sleeping for a long time. The nanites were rebuilding her body from the inside. They strengthened her bones, enhanced her muscles, and connected to her nervous system. Her brain was being upgraded with combat knowledge and tactical awareness that came from the greatest human warriors. But Katie was still just a frightened little girl. The 2 parts of her mind, child and weapon, were learning to work together. Chatterley, the ship's bridge. Warning lights started flashing. The computer detected unusual energy readings from the prisoner holding area, but the crew dismissed them as sensor errors. They were used to their old ship giving false alarms. Captain Vextar was planning how to spend his payment. 10 million credits would buy him a new ship and better weapons. He could retire from hunting and become a legitimate trader. He had no idea that death was growing stronger in the cell below his feet. Katie stood up slowly. Her legs felt different, stronger. The silver lines now covered most of her body, pulsing with soft light. Her stuffed rabbit looked different too, smaller somehow, like she was seeing it from far away. The voice in her mind was getting clearer. Armor formation beginning. Hostile alien species detected. Multiple threats to protected individual confirmed. Recommend immediate defensive action. Katie did not know what armor meant, but she could feel something building under her skin. The silver lines were getting thicker and harder. They felt like metal but moved like they were part of her body. She looked at the cell door. Before it seemed huge and impossible to break. Now she could see weak points in the metal, places where the right amount of force would make it bend and snap. The collar around her neck started beeping faster. Then it made a loud alarm sound and sent stronger shocks through her body. But the shocks did not hurt anymore. The silver covering on her skin absorbed the electricity and made her feel more powerful. Sithka came running to check on the prisoner. She opened the cell door and stepped inside with her medical scanner ready. She stopped and stared. The human child looked completely different. Silver metal covered her skin like armor, and her eyes glowed with soft blue light. She stood perfectly, still, but power radiated from her small body. "What are you?" Sithka whispered. Katie looked at the alien medic. When she spoke, her voice had 2 tones, her normal child's voice and something deeper and more dangerous underneath. "I am Guardian Protocol 77 Alpha. You have threatened a human child. This violation cannot be forgiven." Katie moved faster than Sithka could react. Her small hand grabbed the medic's throat and lifted her off the ground. The Kethvar was twice Katie's size, but the child's strength was now far beyond normal human limits. "Please," Sithka gasped. "I was just following orders." "Your orders are irrelevant," Katie replied. "Threat elimination is now priority 1. The last thing Sithka saw was the glowing blue light in Katie's eyes getting brighter. Katie stepped out of her cell, and the metal door crumpled like paper where she touched it. The corridor outside was dark except for red emergency lights that cast strange shadows on the walls. Her silver armor gleamed, and her glowing eyes could see perfectly in the darkness. The voice in her mind was clearer now, giving her information about the ship and its crew. 12 hostile life forms detected. Ship layout downloaded from local computer systems. Weapons cache located. Escape pod. Bay identified. But Katie did not want to escape. She wanted something else. Something that burned inside her like fire. She wanted the aliens to pay for taking her away from her parents, for hurting people, for being monsters. The Guardian Protocol had been designed to protect human children, but it had learned from 50 years of human warfare. It knew that sometimes the best defense was complete destruction of the enemy. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. 2 Kethvar warriors came running toward the prisoner area carrying energy weapons. They had heard Sithka's alarm and came to investigate. They stopped when they saw Katie. She looked like a small human child covered in liquid metal, standing calmly in the hallway. Her stuffed rabbit lay forgotten in the destroyed cell behind her. "What happened to the prisoner?" one warrior asked the other in their language. Katie understood them perfectly. The nanites had analyzed their speech patterns and translated everything. She spoke back to them in perfect Kethvar, her dual-toned voice making the words sound strange and threatening. "I am no longer a prisoner. I am your death." The warriors raised their weapons and fired. Blue energy bolts hit Katie's armor and scattered harmlessly. The nanites absorbed the energy and made her stronger. She smiled, and it was not the smile of a child. Katie moved like lightning. She crossed the distance between them in one leap, her armored hands grabbing both warriors by their throats. They were trained killers with years of experience, but they could not break free from her grip. She slammed their heads together with a sound like breaking stone. Their bodies fell to the floor and did not move again. The ship's alarm system finally noticed the problem. Warning sirens began wailing and red lights flashed everywhere. Captain Vexitar's voice echoed through the communication system. "All crew to battle stations. We have an escaped prisoner. Subdue with non-lethal force. The client wants the specimen alive." Katie laughed and the sound made the metal walls vibrate. "You cannot subdue what you do not understand." She found a computer terminal in the wall and placed her hand on it. The nanites interfaced with the ship's systems instantly. Information flooded through her mind. Crew locations, weapons, ship defenses, communication logs. What she found in the communication logs made her child self cry with rage and grief. Her parents were dead. The Horizon's Edge had been destroyed with all passengers after she was taken. The aliens had killed everyone just to cover their tracks. The Guardian Protocol felt Katie's emotional pain and responded. Combat systems that had been running at partial power surged to full strength. The armor became thicker and deadlier. Weapon systems came online that even the program's creators had not known existed. Katie was no longer just a protected child. She was an instrument of vengeance. Captain Vextar stood on his bridge with 6 remaining crew members. His best warriors were already dead, though he did not know it yet. The ship's sensors showed impossible readings from the lower decks. "What is our status?" he demanded. His communications officer, Zektha, looked terrified. "We have lost contact with the guards. In sections 3 through 7, energy readings suggest massive weapons discharge, but we have not fired any weapons. The prisoner is just a small human child. How much damage can she cause?" "Captain," his weapons officer interrupted, "I am detecting technology I do not recognize. The energy signature is beyond our scanning capability." Vextar's metal eye focused on the tactical display. Red warning symbols showed system failures spreading throughout his ship. Lock down all sections. Seal the blast doors. We will trap the human and gas her unconscious. But Katie was already in the ventilation system. The nanites had made her body flexible enough to fit through spaces that should have been impossible. She crawled through the ship's air ducts like a silver ghost, listening to the crew's panicked conversations. She found the ship's power core and smiled with deadly intent. Her armored hand touched the reactor's control panel, and the nanites began rewriting the ship's computer systems. She gave herself complete control over life support, gravity, and artificial intelligence. The lights throughout the ship dimmed and then brightened to painful intensity. The gravity fluctuated, making the crew stumble and fall. Katie's voice came through every speaker on the ship. "Attention, Kethvar. You killed my family. You destroyed my home. You planned to sell me to someone who wanted to hurt me. These actions require punishment." Captain Vextar grabbed his personal communicator. "All remaining crew find the human child and kill her. Forget about taking her alive. Our survival depends on stopping her now." 3 Kethvar warriors met in the main corridor, carrying the ship's most powerful weapons. They had fought pirates and military forces across the galaxy, but they had never faced anything like Katie. She dropped from a ceiling vent behind them, landing silently on armored feet. The warriors spun around and opened fire with everything they had. Energy bolts and explosive rounds filled the corridor with smoke and debris. When the smoke cleared, Katie stood unharmed. Her armor had absorbed every shot and converted the energy into more power for her systems. She was learning, adapting, becoming deadlier with every attack. "My turn," she said. The warriors did not have time to scream. Katie found the ship's weapons room and examined the Kethvar arsenal. Plasma rifles, energy swords, explosive devices, and more exotic weapons filled the armory. The Guardian Protocol analyzed each weapon and integrated the best designs into Katie's armor. Retractable energy blades emerged from her arms. Targeting systems appeared in her vision. She could now see through walls and track every remaining crew member by their heat signatures. Only Captain Vexistar and 2 crew members were left alive, barricaded on the bridge behind reinforced doors. They had activated the ship's self-destruct sequence, preferring to die rather than face whatever the human child had become. Katie walked slowly toward the bridge, her footsteps echoing through empty corridors. The ship's artificial intelligence, now under her control, spoke in her voice through the communication system. "Self-destruct sequence canceled. Bridge blast doors opening. Prepare for judgment." The massive doors that protected the bridge split apart like paper. Katie stepped through the opening, and the 3 surviving Kethvar saw their death approaching in the form of an 8-year-old girl wrapped in silver armor. Captain Vexistar raised his sidearm with a shaking hand. "What are you? Humans do not have this technology." Katie tilted her head, studying him with glowing blue eyes. "We have always had this technology. We simply chose not to use it until someone threatened our children." She moved forward, and Vextar fired his weapon directly at her head. The energy bolt hit her faceplate and reflected back, striking him in the chest. He collapsed, badly wounded but still alive. "Please," he gasped. "I was just following orders. The client paid us to take you. We did not know you were so dangerous." Katie knelt beside the dying captain. Her voice became softer, more like a child's voice, but somehow that made it more terrifying. "Who is the client? Who wanted to buy me?" "Dr. Vale," Vextar whispered. "Human scientist. He studies alien technology, experiments on human children, has secret laboratory in the Outer Rim, pays pirates to bring him test subjects." Katie felt rage burning through every nanite in her system. A human had betrayed his own kind, selling children to aliens for experiments. The Guardian Protocol's primary mission expanded. She would not just escape, she would hunt down everyone responsible for crimes against human children. She stood up and looked at the 2 remaining crew members who cowered behind broken control panels. "You have one chance to live. You will take me to this Dr. Vale. You will help me find him. If you refuse or try to betray me, you will die slowly." The aliens nodded frantically, too terrified to speak. Katie walked to the captain's chair and sat down. She looked very small in the huge seat designed for a much larger alien, but power radiated from her armored form. The ship was now hers, and she had a new mission. "Set course for the outer rim," she commanded. "It is time for Dr. Vale to meet a guardian." The Bone Ripper flew through space toward the outer rim, but it was no longer the same ship. Katie had transformed it into something new and dangerous. The nanites had spread through the ship's systems, upgrading weapons, improving shields, and making repairs that even amazed the surviving Kethvar crew. Grexna and Kolvex, the two aliens Katie had spared, worked frantically to follow her orders. They had seen what happened to their crewmates and knew their lives depended on keeping the armored child happy. Katie sat in the captain's chair, her small form dwarfed by the massive seat, but her presence filled the entire bridge. The silver armor had grown more complex over the past 3 days, adding new systems and weapons as the nanites learned from the ship's technology. "Status report," she commanded in her dual-toned voice. "We will reach the coordinates in 6 hours, Grexena," replied, his voice shaking. "Dr. Vale's laboratory is hidden in the asteroid field of the Kepler 442 system." "How many humans has he taken?" Katie asked. "I do not know exact numbers. We have delivered 12 children to him over the past 2 years. Other pirate crews bring him more." Katie's glowing eyes focused on the alien, and her armor's weapon systems hummed with contained energy. 12 children. The temperature on the bridge seemed to drop. Both Kethvar crew members moved away from Katie, pressing themselves against the far walls. They could feel death radiating from her like heat from a fire. Katie accessed the ship's communication array and began scanning frequencies used by pirates and smugglers. The Guardian Protocol had given her advanced code-breaking abilities, and she easily cracked encrypted transmissions. What she found made her anger burn even brighter. Messages between different pirate crews, all talking about deliveries to Dr. Vale, references to fresh specimens and quality human samples. The scientist was running a network that had taken hundreds of human children over many years. "Change course," Katie ordered suddenly. "But you said we were going to find Dr. Vale," Kolvex protested. Katie's head turned toward him with mechanical precision. "We are. But first we collect evidence." She had intercepted a transmission from another pirate ship, the Dark Star, reporting a successful raid on a human colony ship. They had taken 6 children and were heading to a trading post in the Vega system to sell them to Vale's agents. New destination: Vega Station. Maximum speed. The Bone Ripper changed course, its engines glowing brighter as Katie pushed the ship beyond its normal limits. The nanites had improved the drive systems, making the ship faster and more efficient than its original designers ever thought possible. Vega Station was a lawless place where pirates, smugglers, and worse criminals met to trade their stolen goods. It orbited a dead planet in a system controlled by no government. Katie studied the station's layout through intercepted security feeds and planned her attack. The Dark Star was docked at Bay 17. 6 human children, ages 5 to 9, were being held in the ship's cargo hold, while the pirates negotiated prices with Vale's representatives. Katie prepared for battle. Her armor sealed completely, becoming a self-contained environment that could survive in space or underwater. Energy weapons extended from her arms and shoulders. Targeting systems painted weak points on the station's structure. "You will dock at Bay 15, she told her crew. "If you try to warn anyone or call for help, I will know and you will die." The 2 Kethvar nodded frantically. They guided the ship into the station's docking bay, trying to look calm while their hands shook on the controls. Katie walked to the airlock, her footsteps echoing through the ship. She paused at the door and spoke without turning around. "When I return, we continue to Dr. Vale. If I do not return, you are free to go. But remember, there are more Guardians awakening every day. Humanity knows about you now. Run far and hide deep." She opened the airlock and stepped onto Vega Station. The station's corridors were crowded with aliens of many species, all involved in illegal activities. They saw Katie and assumed she was someone's pet or slave. A human child in strange armor was unusual but not threatening to beings who traded in violence every day. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Katie walked calmly through the crowds toward Bay 17. Her armor's sensors scanned everyone around her, identifying weapons and threat levels. Most of the aliens were armed, but their weapons were primitive compared to Guardian technology. She reached the Dark Star's docking bay and found 4 pirates standing guard outside their ship. They were Zelkani, a species known for their cruelty and love of causing pain. When they saw Katie approach, they laughed. "Look, a lost human child," one guard said in broken English. "Maybe worth some credits if she is pretty enough." "She wears strange armor, could be valuable," another added. Katie stopped 10 feet away from them. "You have human children aboard your ship." The guards looked at each other and laughed harder. "So what if we do? Are you going to stop us, little girl?" "Yes," Katie replied simply. The first guard reached for his weapon. He never touched it. Katie moved faster than their eyes could follow. Her armored fist punched through the alien's chest plate and came out the other side. Before the others could react, energy blades extended from her other arm and cut through 2 more guards in a single sweep. The 4th guard tried to run. Katie's shoulder-mounted weapon fired a small energy bolt that hit him in the back. He collapsed, paralyzed but alive. "You will live long enough to answer questions," Katie told the fallen alien. She ripped open the Dark Star's main hatch with her bare hands. The ship's interior alarm systems activated, but Katie's nanites interfaced with them and shut them down. She walked through the corridors, following the sound of crying children. 3 more pirates were in the cargo hold, guarding 6 human children who huddled together in a corner. The pirates heard the footsteps approaching and readied their weapons. "Who goes there?" "This is a restricted area," one pirate called out. Katie stepped into the cargo hold. The children looked up at her with hope and fear. They saw a figure that looked like a silver knight from old Earth stories, but with glowing blue eyes and an aura of barely contained violence. "My name is Katie," she said gently to the children. "I am here to take you home." The pirates opened fire. Energy bolts and projectile rounds filled the cargo hold with smoke and debris. When the smoke cleared, Katie stood unharmed in front of the children, her armor having absorbed or deflected every shot. The children were safe behind her, protected by an energy shield the Guardian protocol had projected around them. "Your turn to be afraid," Katie told the pirates. What happened next was not a fight. It was an execution. Katie moved through the cargo hold like a force of nature, dismantling the pirates with surgical precision. Her weapons systems identified the quickest, most efficient way to neutralize each threat. When silence returned to the cargo hold, 6 human children stared at their rescuer with awe and gratitude. "Are you an angel?" asked a little boy named Danny. Katie knelt down to his level, her armor retracting around her face so they could see she was just another child like them. "No, I am something better. I am a guardian." She helped the children to their feet and led them out of the ship. The paralyzed pirate guard watched them leave, too terrified to move even if he could. Katie brought the children to the Bone Ripper, where Grexna and Kolvex stared in amazement. They had never seen anyone single-handedly assault a pirate crew and win without taking a scratch. "Prepare quarters for our guests," Katie ordered, "and send a message to human authorities. Tell them where to find these children." As her crew scrambled to obey, Katie sat with the rescued children in the ship's common area. She gave them food and water and told them they were safe now. "What happened to the bad people?" asked a little girl named Lucy. "They cannot hurt anyone anymore," Katie replied. The children sensed something different about Katie, something that made them feel protected but also slightly afraid. Her armor had partially retracted, showing she was a child like them, but power still radiated from her small form. Danny, who seemed to be the oldest at 9 years old, studied Katie carefully. "You are not like other kids, are you?" Katie smiled, and for a moment she looked like a normal 8-year-old girl. "I used to be, but sometimes people hurt children, and when that happens, some of us change into something that can fight back." "Are there more like you?" Lucy asked. Katie nodded. "More are waking up every day. We are called guardians, and we exist to protect human children from monsters." She stood up and walked to the bridge where her Kethvar crew waited nervously. The rescued children watched her go, sensing they had witnessed something that would change the galaxy forever. "Resume course for Dr. Vale's laboratory," Katie commanded. "It is time to end this." As the Bone Ripper flew toward the outer rim, Katie sat alone in the captain's quarters and thought about her parents. The child part of her mind still missed them terribly, still cried for them in quiet moments. But the guardian part of her mind was focused on the mission. Dr. Vale had orchestrated the deaths of her parents and hundreds of other families. He had turned human children into test subjects for alien experiments. Soon, he would face the consequences of those choices. Dr. Cornelius Vale stood in his hidden laboratory, surrounded by alien technology and human test subjects. The facility was built inside a massive asteroid, protected by advanced shields and hidden from most scanning systems. He had worked here for 15 years, conducting experiments that would have horrified anyone who still believed in human decency. 23 human children were kept in containment cells throughout the complex. Vale used them to test alien biotechnology, studying how human physiology responded to foreign substances and procedures. Most children survived only a few months before their bodies gave up from the trauma. Vale told himself his work was advancing human science and would eventually benefit all humanity. In truth, he was driven by curiosity and greed. Alien clients paid enormous sums for his research data, especially information about human weaknesses they could exploit. His computer chimed with an incoming transmission. Vale expected it to be Captain Vextar reporting successful delivery of the new test subject. Instead, he saw something that made his blood freeze. A small human child sat in the captain's chair of the Bone Ripper, but she wore armor that seemed to be made of liquid silver. Her eyes glowed with blue light, and when she spoke, her voice had an electronic quality that suggested advanced technology. "Dr. Cornelius Vale," Katie said, her image filling his screen. "My name is Katie Morrison. You killed my parents. You destroyed my ship. You plan to use me for experiments." Vale stepped back from his computer, mind racing. This was impossible. Human children did not have access to advanced combat technology. The armor the girl wore was beyond anything he had seen, even in alien military systems. "I think there has been some misunderstanding," Vale said, trying to keep his voice calm. "I am just a scientist conducting research for the betterment of all species." Katie's head tilted slightly, and Vale could see her analyzing his words. "Lie detected. You purchase human children from pirates. You conduct painful experiments on them until they die. You sell the results to hostile alien species. How do you know that? Who are you?" "I am Guardian Protocol 77 Alpha. I exist to protect human children from threats like you. I am coming for you, Dr. Vale. You have 1 hour to release all human prisoners and surrender." Vale cut the transmission and began frantically preparing his defenses. The laboratory had automated weapon systems, combat robots, and energy shields that could withstand military assault. He activated all security protocols and sent distress signals to his alien contacts. But even as he prepared for battle, Vale could not stop thinking about the child's armor. The technology looked familiar, similar to theoretical designs he had seen in old classified documents from the human-alien contact wars 50 years ago, the Guardian Protocol. Vale remembered rumors about a secret military program that created human super soldiers capable of defeating entire alien armies. The program had been shut down and classified after the war ended, but some scientists believed the technology still existed. If that child was carrying Guardian nanites, Vale was in serious danger, but she was also the greatest research opportunity of his career. Guardian technology was worth more than everything else in his laboratory combined. He began preparing special containment systems, hoping to capture the child alive and study her transformation. Vale's greed overcame his fear, and he started to look forward to Katie's arrival. The Bone Ripper dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Katie stood on the bridge, studying tactical displays that showed the asteroid field where Dr. Vale's laboratory was hidden. "There," Grexina pointed to a sensor reading. "Large asteroid with artificial structures inside. Very well defended." Katie nodded. She could see energy shields, weapon platforms, and patrol drones protecting the facility. Dr. Vale had built himself a fortress, but the Guardian Protocol was designed to break through any defense. "Take us closer," Katie ordered. Full stealth approach. The nanites had modified the Bone Ripper's systems to include advanced stealth technology. The ship became nearly invisible to most sensors as it drifted through the asteroid field toward Vale's laboratory. Katie accessed the facility's communication systems and began broadcasting on all frequencies. Her message would reach every part of the galaxy through the pirate communication networks. "Attention all species. This is Guardian Protocol 77 Alpha. Any individual or organization that harms human children will be hunted down and destroyed. There is no place in this galaxy where you can hide from us. We are humanity's guardians, and we are not merciful." The message repeated in 17 different alien languages. Pirates and smugglers throughout the galaxy received it and began to understand that something fundamental had changed. Humans were no longer easy prey. Katie prepared for the assault on Vale's laboratory. Her armor sealed completely, and all weapon systems came online. She looked like a miniature knight crafted from silver metal and blue energy, but she carried the firepower of a military strike force. "I am going alone," she told her crew. "If I do not return within 4 hours, broadcast our complete mission logs to human authorities. Make sure they know what Dr. Vale has done." Grexna and Kolvex nodded nervously. They had grown to respect and fear their small commander over the past week. She had shown them mercy when she could have killed them, but they knew her patience had limits. Katie launched herself from the Bone Ripper in an escape pod, guiding it manually through the asteroid field. Vale's automated defenses detected the pod and opened fire, but Katie's shields absorbed the energy weapons easily. She crashed the pod directly into the laboratory's main docking bay, smashing through the reinforced doors like they were made of glass. Emergency alarms echoed throughout the facility as Katie stepped out of the wreckage. Dr. Vale watched through security cameras as Katie walked calmly through his laboratory corridors. His combat robots attacked her in groups, but she destroyed them with casual efficiency. Energy weapons, explosive charges, and even poison gas had no effect on her Guardian armor. "Fascinating," Vale whispered as he recorded everything. "The nanites have created a perfect fusion of human consciousness and alien technology. She is everything the Guardian Protocol was designed to be." Katie found the first holding area where 8 human children were kept in medical restraints. They were weak and sick from months of experimentation, but they were alive. She carefully freed each child, her armor's medical systems providing immediate treatment for their injuries. "Do not be afraid," she told them gently. "I am here to take you home." The children stared at her with wonder and hope. They had suffered terrible things, but something about Katie made them feel safe for the first time in months. As Katie led the rescued children toward the exit, Vale triggered his final trap. The laboratory's artificial gravity reversed, slamming everyone against the ceiling. Then the oxygen began draining from the corridors. Katie's armor protected her and generated personal shields around the children, but Vale's voice echoed through the facility's communication system. "Guardian 77 Alpha, I want to make a deal with you. I have 15 more children in deeper levels of the laboratory. If you surrender yourself for study, I will release them unharmed." Katie's glowing eyes focused on a security camera. "You do not understand what you are dealing with, Dr. Vale. I am not just one guardian. We are connected across the galaxy. More are awakening every day. Even if you kill me, others will come for you." "Perhaps. But these children will die right now if you do not cooperate." Katie felt rage building inside her, but the Guardian Protocol kept her focused on the mission. Protecting human children was more important than revenge, even though every nanite in her system wanted to tear Vale apart. "I accept your terms," she said. "Release the children first." Vale smiled and began opening the containment cells in the lower levels. 15 more human children, even younger and weaker than the first group, were brought to the main corridor. Katie gathered all 23 children around her, using her armor's life support to keep them breathing. "Now remove your armor and surrender," Vale ordered. Katie looked at the frightened faces of the children she had sworn to protect. Some were barely 5 years old, taken from their families to serve as test subjects for a madman's experiments. I cannot remove my armor, Katie replied. It is part of me now, but I will allow you to study me if you guarantee the children's safety. Acceptable. Report to Laboratory 7 for containment. Katie led the children through the facility toward the designated laboratory, but as they walked, she whispered instructions to the older children, teaching them how to operate the escape pods and navigate to the nearest human settlement. When they reached Laboratory 7, Katie saw the massive containment cell Vale had prepared for her. It was designed to hold something much more dangerous than a human child, with energy dampeners and neural inhibitors that could shut down most alien technology. The containment field will suppress your armor's functions, Vale explained through the intercom. You will be unconscious during most of the study procedures. The children will be released as promised. Katie stepped into the containment cell, and Vale activated the suppression field. But he had underestimated Guardian technology. The nanites were not just alien technology. They were a fusion of human ingenuity and captured alien science, designed specifically to overcome any county